All right, to set up keys is very, very easy. All we have to do is hit the letter S. As soon as I hit S, everything turns red. Red means that a key has been created. Now, in order to create a key, you have to be somewhere in time. You record a key, then you go somewhere else in time, you change your rotation, your translation, your scale, any value, and then you set another key. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to this first key right here, and I'm gonna go right mouse button, and I'm gonna delete my key. As soon as I hit S, every possible value in this sphere right here will be keyed. So then if I go to, let's say, frame 12, and I move this guy up here, and I hit S, everything has been keyed. So now if I go and I scrub with my left mouse button on the timeline, I go back to frame 1, frame 12. I can go to frame 24 and then do another change of value. So let's say that I scale my character down and I rotate it in some odd direction. As soon as I hit S, everything has been keyed and a key has been created right here. So if I scrub with my left mouse button to the beginning, I have my first set of keys, second, and the third set of keys. So this is a very inefficient workflow, because if I was to open the graph editor right now, where we can see all the curves from this object, you will notice that we have curves that represent whatever we've animated. So in this case, if we go to frame 1, you will notice that all the keys were set to 0. So at frame 1, there was no value for anything except for the scales. And the scale is always 1, scale of 1. But when I go to frame 12, and if I scrub on the timeliner, you can see the movement on my graph editor. You don't see the movement happening in both of the cameras. You have to click on one of the cameras, select your object, and then you will notice now that we can see that animation happening in that camera. So at frame 12, you will notice that we had a change on the translate Y, but everything else was still down to 0. So there was no reason to key everything. At this point, we didn't do any rotation, we didn't do any scale, and on and on. So let's say, for example, if we key everything, what tends to happen is that we have a lot of curves for everything keyed. And if you're not doing anything, any change, let's say, for example, on the visibility. If I go to the graph editor and I select my object right here, the sphere, and I click on the visibility, so I can isolate that one specific curve, you will notice that nothing has changed. At frame 1, the value is 1. A value of 1 means on, a value of 0 means off. So in the case of visibility, where we can only key on and off, you will notice that at frame 1, we have a value of 1. At frame 12, another value of 1. You can see it here, or you can see it right here in the channel box. And at frame 24, again, a value of 1. So we have an extra curve that we don't need to animate. So the other way of working more efficient in Maya is I'm going to select all these keys right here, and I'm going to delete them. So the one way that you can do this is you can select your sphere. If the object is not selected, you will notice that you don't see anything. So you have to select the object first. Then you can select all the keys inside of the graph editor and hit delete. That's one way of doing it. Then the second way of doing it, you can go to the channel box and click and drag all the attributes that were keyed, and you can go right mouse button and you can go to break connections. And the third way of doing this, while holding the shift key in your time slider, you can click and drag from frame 1 down to frame 24. Everything will turn red, and you can go right mouse button, delete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset everything. I'm going to type in 1 for the scale. Scale is always 1. And for the translate and the rotate, I'm going to click and drag in all the value boxes and type in 0. And notice that we go to the very first frame. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set a frame on one value. If all I'm going to do is move this ball up and down, all I need to work is on the translate Y. So I would go to frame 1, click on translate Y, right mouse button, and I can go to key selected. So now only one of the attributes in the channel box was keyed. Then I can go to frame 12, I can move my object, I can right mouse button on translate Y, and I can go key selected. Then I can go to frame 24, do something else, move it back to where I want it, right mouse button, and I can go to key selected. The reason why translate Y is highlighted is because all I'm doing is translating on Y. If I was to, for example, rotate my sphere, notice that translate Y is not highlighted. The reason why this box right here is red is because red signifies that there's keys in the translate Y value. That's all this means. So if you go to the graph editor and you click on your sphere, that's your value. So if I select this curve right here and I hit F, bottom to top, that's your value. Of course, the top will be positive, the bottom will be negative. And then left to right is your time. So the way that you read this is at frame 1, right here, the value is 0. So at frame 12 right here, our value is 15.13. So this is how you can manually set keys in Maya.